Thank you for that very warm welcome and very generous introduction. I'm extremely happy to be here for the 4th Semicon India Future Design Roadshow. I think this is an absolutely apt setting to have it amongst some of the leading technology leaders, both in ISRO and around the world, as well as among students who are from IIST, which is obviously a reputed, very well-known, cutting-edge institution that is producing, developing leaders of tomorrow in the area of technology. So I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity to speak to all of you. I thank the leadership of VSSC, IIST, METI, CDAC for hosting this roadshow, and certainly want to thank my friends from the industry, from NVIDIA, IBM, Marvel, Renaissance and Cadence for being here today to be part of this roadshow. First of all, I think as Naveen said, we are living at a time when if you are asked to be chosen between a superhero, a Superman, or a semiconductor engineer, I think we are finally living at a time when a semiconductor engineer is also a superhero. So I think that in itself tells you how far our country has come, how far we have progressed in the area of technology. I was at a recent program some months ago when somebody from Shadi.com told me that it used to be the case that for all the people who put their biodata on Shadi.com, it used to be earlier, I work in Tata's, I work in the IAS, I work in the IPS. That used to be the preferred qualification, and now it is, I'm a startup founder, I'm a startup engineer, and hopefully soon on Shadi.com we say that semiconductor startup founders are, semiconductor space startup founders are the most preferred brides and bridegrooms. So anyway, I look forward to that day, and I'm sure that will come as well. Look, on a serious note, I think we can all agree today in this room, some of you are students, some of you are practitioners in technology, some of you are leaders, that we are living in the most exciting time ever in the history of technology. I mean, on that, there can be absolutely no dispute. And I'm talking about globally. And in particular, for India's technology ecosystem, for India's digital economy, we are living in the most exciting time. And I will explain to you the trends that are pointing towards this exciting period, this growth that we are seeing, this growth of opportunities, the growth of success that we have seen, that we are seeing, that in the coming years this will only continue to expand and accelerate. And those trends are very simple. For those who are students, you will certainly very quickly get this. Digitization and the intensity of technology in our lives, in the enterprises, in governments around the world is only increasing at an unprecedented rate. It used to be a linear curve. It is now more than an exponential curve in terms of how technology is embedding itself and technology is accelerating. Digitization is accelerating. Even segments which were counterintuitive to embracing technology, government governance, public services, water supply, subsidy delivery, things that were absolutely outside the ambit of what you thought would be impacted by technology are today embracing technology and growing faster and further because of technology. I have as one of my responsibilities, I am extremely proud to be a Minister of Jal Shakti. Jal Shakti Ministry today has, over the last 3 years alone, delivered tap water, safe tap water to 11.7 crore homes. While before that, for 75 years in India, we had only 3.6 crore homes that could get safe tap water. Now you say, why am I bringing this topic up in a conversation about semiconductors? Suddenly, 15 crore homes, hundreds and thousands of villages have discovered a use case of quality and quantity metering of water. And that's certainly going to be some sort of a chip and a system and a product that is going to be inexpensive, rugged, connected to a broad cloud, giving data, outputting data on what the consumer is or the household is consuming by way of water, both in terms of quantity and quality. 5 years ago, if you had asked me, is this a legitimate use case for a semiconductor device or a product, you would have laughed, I would have laughed, and we would have moved on. But here there is millions of homes that are going to seek this type of a device and product. So even segments that are counterintuitive to what we think is technology are embracing technology. And this is true for industrial, as you heard about, in space, in strategic electronics, in compute, telecom, automotive. Now, who would have thought that we would be living in an age when an EV would have 1,700 to 2,000 pieces of silicon embedded in a car? When you say data center on wheels, that is the understatement of the year. It is like a mega data center on wheels that these cars and automotive platforms are developing into. The third trend is every conventional architecture of a system or a device is being totally reimagined. Just 5 years ago, 7 years ago, we were living in the world of CPUs, where a conventional processor with conventional logic and instruction set would be used and deployed for multiple, broad spectrum of applications. We have Vishal here, the $1 trillion company NVIDIA, and we should persuade him to share some of his riches with us. A company that was just 5-6 years ago known as a gaming company, producing high-performance gaming accelerator cards, is today the world's leader in the processors that are fueling AI and AI data centers with their GPUs. So every conventional architecture, every conventional system that we knew, every conventional normal that we saw is being reimagined and redesigned in today's world. And that is a huge opportunity for students of today, entrepreneurs of today and tomorrow, to be part of, almost be at the starting line of designing and reimagining systems of tomorrow, devices and products of tomorrow. And the last is, as I said, and it's mixed up with the earlier point, which is really that every device, who would have thought Intel, the company that I worked in, that at one point had 70% of the market share of everything that looked like silicon and smelled like silicon, today would have 8% market share. And that it is now being dominated by Marvel, NVIDIA, and so many other companies today, Renesas, IBM, so many other companies today that are creating much more narrower application-specific processors and logic and systems. So it is that background that we have launched Future Design. And as has been already explained, just 2 years ago, our Honorable Prime Minister said that we want to transform India into a semiconductor nation. For 70-75 years, we have done very little on semiconductors, excepting for pockets of brilliance and innovation like ISRO and SAC and some parts of the DRDO that did some real work despite all odds in creating devices and products. Really, India was absent from the overall global ecosystem of original semiconductor design. Yes, talent from India was fueling all of the global R&D and continues to fuel global R&D and global capabilities, but the Indian ecosystem certainly lacked any original work that was going on. And so therefore I will just quickly take you through a few slides to tell you what this future design is about and how it is extremely relevant to everybody who's a student here today. And I say this because you are in a lot of ways the luckiest generation of students in the history of independent India. Here is the government, here is the industry coming to you and saying, we are offering you opportunities to do something, build something of your own. 10, 20, 30 years ago when I studied, and I'm sure most of you studied, our opportunities were limited to looking for a job, joining a government, and if your father and mother were desperate enough to get you out of their house, like mine, send them to the US by taking all their savings and making them study abroad. But today, here we are, at the cutting edge of engineering, science. Semiconductors represents that, the cutting edge, the intersection of science and engineering. There are opportunities that are being brought to you, where funding is available, a roadmap of what you can do is available, and therefore I certainly hope that you will spend some time in listening to this. Next. Go next slide. So just to give you a sense of what is the Indian semiconductor space, we are not operating in a vacuum. This is going to be one of the hottest semiconductor markets in the world in the coming years. We are already a fast-growing, fast-charging electronics ecosystem. As Apple themselves have recently acknowledged, about 12 to 15% of the device manufacturing and the GVCs, global GVCs of electronics, will be in India by the year 2027-29. We expect the semiconductor market to be about 110 billion by that time frame. Next. And our Prime Minister has very clearly and lucidly laid out that as much as we have ambitions in manufacturing, we also want to be leaders in design, IP, and innovation. So this is not about just manufacturing, and this accepts and recognizes that India sees the future of performance, technology performance, is not just being limited to manufacturing-led performance, but also design and innovation-led performance. Next. I'll skip this. I'll come straight to this. This is what is relevant to you. This is what the future design program is. There are two words here, future and design. Design you understand, but this is about designing for the future. And in the context of what I said earlier, which is that everything that we see today as a normal is being reimagined. Every architecture, you can safely assume, is going to be replaced by a new architecture. Every system is going to be replaced by a new paradigm. There is right now about 1,000 crores that are being allotted to fund startups. The government is able to today invest up to 100 crores on a device or an IP or an EDA that is being developed in our country by a startup. And there is more resources that the Honorable Prime Minister has promised if it is required. Next. Central to this is, as I said, in the context of telling you how the opportunities and what the trends are, central to this is this belief by our Prime Minister that this coming decade, called the India decade, will be shaped by young Indian startups as much as it will be shaped by large Indian companies. So there is a role for young Indians and startups in the overall strategic vision for our country and our next decade. Next. The team that has worked on future design is, it's a mix of industry, government, academics. Next. And it has been mapped into 5 zones so that there is competition, there is cooperation. Next. And I just want to summarize this for you, so that I'll keep this slide on for you so that you can understand. It is about innovating semiconductor design for, like I said, broad spectrum of applications, automobile, mobility, compute. Next generation design startups, catalyze IP, catalyze co-development and joint ownership. The reason these 5 big names today are here is that they have a deep interest in partnering with Indian startups, in a sense, to explore the possibilities of not just the startups designing their own IP and devices, but also to explore partnerships between large companies and Indian startups in co-development. Next. Again, just to give you a sense, because you're all, many of you are students, this is how the opportunities stack up in terms of where devices and where products are going to be needed. Wired communications, consumer electronics, industrial electronics and IoT, automotive, wireless communication, computing, data centers on the cloud. Next. One point that for some will require some repetition and some will understand it pretty clearly. 60%, this is estimate, this is our estimate, and maybe some of you may dispute it. 60% of the bill of material cost of a device today is design. The value today is design. So for students here today, you can be very confident that even if you don't have a prototype fab next to your computer college, or you don't have access to some whatever, Intel, Nvidia, or anybody close by as your neighbor, design still gets you very far in the semiconductor ecosystem. And the left-hand side, fabless suppliers account for 33% of global IC sales. Next. And our strategy, this slide should tell you that we are doubling down on a strategy where RISC-V and IBM's Power, these two families are going to be the Indian families of semiconductors, around which we will build multiple, we'll expand the family to deal with multiple applications, from microcontrollers and IoT on one end to high performance computing on the other end, while still embracing the other global platforms like Nvidia and others, but go clearly for the Indian Atmanirbharta, two core families of and ISAs and architectures. We are doubling down and helping the growth of that, and we hope to become a talent hub for both those. A lot of work on this Digital India RISC-V has been done in Kerala by CDAC, and I can see Krishna Kumar there in the audience. He has done a considerable amount of work, and this is again something that startups should be aware of, that there is a huge opportunity to develop products, devices and products around that. Next. For students who think, next, who want examples to follow, who want to be inspired by other startups, does a startup exist? Is this a really too high a mountain to climb? I just want to show you how in the last 2 years, a huge number of startups. You saw a video of Sankhya Labs. I remember meeting Sankhya Labs about 8 years ago in Bangalore, and they were crying and complaining that they were doing all this work, but nobody was even looking at them. There was no capital to be got, and there was no growth. And today, they are one of the fast-charging, aggressively growing companies and startups. So there are large number of people, and including people who just graduated from college, who have started these semiconductor design startups and who have received support from the government or received financial capital on their own from other people. There are co-development and joint ownership opportunities between startups and the large companies. Again, this slide shows you that. Next. How the global names in semiconductors are partnering with Indian startups to develop the next generation of chips. Next. So rapidly growing ecosystem. Next. You can keep skipping slides. Next. So this is a slide that tells you how we have put together an enabling framework. So even if you are a young student, you have an idea, and you don't have the bootstrap capital to buy an EDA tool, we have the Chip-in Center that can help you get started and get you started on your journey to bootstrap your own startup or develop a company to build a device or a product of your own. Next. So the other element of semiconductor design is the aspect of research. Semiconductor, as I said, is the intersection of science and engineering. It's the very cutting edge. It pushes the boundaries of physics, chemistry. It pushes the boundaries of known manufacturing processes and tools. And it is certainly something that our Prime Minister is very clear that we will build deep, permanent, multi-year capabilities, decadal capabilities. And we are going to set up a Bharat Semiconductor Research Center, which will be a comparable institution and organization to IMEC in Europe, or Albany Nanotech, or MIT Microelectronics in the US, or IIST in Taiwan. And one of the places that is being actively considered to locate the Bharat Semiconductor Research Center is the IIST campus in Thiruvananthapuram. I certainly hope that we can make that come true in the coming months. Next. I want to just leave this slide with you, which is a lot of what I said about the existing normal being disrupted, new normals being created, existing architectures and being reimagined is going to happen because of AI and the advent of all the disruption and the change that AI will bring with it and all the challenges that will come with it. We are shortly going to launch a very formal India AI program, and there is a clear intersection there between future design for semiconductor, Semicon, and future design for India AI. And I'll just give one example for you to think about. A story. There is a gentleman whom I have a lot of respect and regard for, a gentleman called Jim Keller. He used to be an architect, CPU architect at AMD, and then he became the chief AI architect at Tesla. And he left and he wanted to start up 2 new companies to build the next generation of AI chips, which will hopefully give NVIDIA some competition, because you lack competition right now. So Jim Keller sets up these startups, guess where? Not in San Francisco, not in Santa Clara, not in the Silicon Valley, but sets it up in Bangalore. So I want you to understand that the world's leaders are looking at Indian talent, not anymore because of cost, not anymore because of just talent shortages in their home country, but really looking at them strategically as partners. So the students of today at IIST, or indeed anybody who is excited about semiconductors, are going to be true partners and participants and stakeholders in building these future chips and devices of the future. Next. So here is the reason I'm here. So amongst you, I want you all to take a deep, hard look at this opportunity. This roadshow is about catalyzing your imagination, exciting you to look to the semiconductor opportunity in India. 2 years ago, when the Honorable Prime Minister launched Semicon India, gave us the resources of 76,000 crores, India was absolutely absent from the semiconductor ecosystem. Today we have received in just 2 years $26 billion of investment proposals. Micron, Tower, TSMC Taiwan, Tata's are all setting up multi-billion-dollar manufacturing facilities. Every global name in semiconductor today, including the very respected brands and companies today who are on the dais, today, there is not one company in the world, in the global semiconductor ecosystem, that does not have an R&D center in India. And thirdly, we have created a very vibrant, fast-charging, globally competitive startup ecosystem in India in the last 2 years. I want you to be part of that journey. I want you to be part of that semiconductor ecosystem. And I want you to consider this as an extremely exciting opportunity as you go down the path and plan your future and the future careers. Thank you. Jai Hind. Namaskar.